S-A-R-C-A-S-M. Sarcasm. I'm not going to give you too many examples of sarcasm because you can find them just by typing S-A-R-C-A-S-M. Type that into YouTube and you'll see lots of examples of sarcasm. It's a very popular style of English communication. Simply put, sarcasm is when you say the opposite of what you mean. For example, oh, that's great. Oh, that's great. That means it's not great. Or, oh, that was brilliant. Means that was stupid. Right? Now, sarcasm is a very tricky thing because it is often used to express anger and frustration and to kind of create a bad mood. I mean, if someone says, oh, that's brilliant, that's a very aggressive way of saying you're being stupid. But what I think a lot of Japanese people don't understand is that sarcasm is used in many situations much more subtly in English, in a way that you don't do in Japanese. And I think many foreigners, when they're communicating with Japanese, get into trouble because they overuse sarcasm. In fact, sarcasm, when it's done really well, is often referred to as irony. It's when you talk about something that isn't exactly how you feel as a way of revealing some deeper truth. And it's very hard to give you examples of that, but it's very popular. I will give you some examples later. Both sarcasm and irony are also related to another kind of English communication, which is actually an art form called satire. Satire is very popular. Actually, while I'm talking, I'm going to run a video of a Japanese actor that you're familiar with, if you're Japanese. He recently died, sadly. Shimura Ken. Shimura Ken's comedy is often very satirical. That is to say, he takes on a character, and the point of taking on the character is to make fun of a certain kind of person. So this video that you're seeing here as I'm talking is him being a Japanese English teacher. Actually, I love this video. However, I want to say that I actually think that Japanese English teachers are often excellent. I'm not one of those people that criticizes the way Japanese people teach English. But anyway, what he's doing here is he's running a satire. He's not actually like this. He doesn't actually think the way this person talks, but he steps into this character to create that situation. And anyway, that kind of comedy is also very popular in Western culture. And it's related to the idea of sarcasm. Now, sarcasm and irony are something that Westerners use more than Japanese people, and it gets them into trouble. I often like to point out to Japanese people that there are some things that they do that are not bad, but are very different from how Americans communicate with each other. One excellent example of this is mimicry. I wish I could find a really good video of people mimicking each other in Japanese. It happens a lot. I hear Japanese high school and junior high school girls do it with each other a lot, but boys do it too. And just, someone says something in a unique way, and someone else will pick up on it and mimic it. So, for example, a girl might say, "Oh, kawaiso," and her friend says, "Oh, kawaiso," copying the way she does it as a way of sort of drawing attention to it as something unique about that person. Now, in America, if you do that, it's not good at all. Americans are very, very sensitive about mimicry. They don't like it. They see it as kind of cruel. And now that doesn't mean it is cruel. It's just American culture doesn't operate in that way. They don't. That's not a way that people reach out to each other in an American context. And it is a way people reach out to each other in Japan. So cultures are different. English speakers use sarcasm a lot, and sarcasm and irony a lot, and Japanese speakers use mimicry a lot. Mimicry is related to something that's actually very healthy called mirroring. Mirroring is when you copy the way another person is behaving as a way of showing that you feel a connection with them. Again, that's something that Japanese people do very, very well. They do it a lot when they communicate with each other, when they hang out with each other. They do it so well they often aren't aware that they're doing it. It's something that, again, you have to be kind of careful with Americans and Brits, because mirroring and mimicry are seen as a kind of mockery a little bit more often than is the case in Japan. But anyway, so here's an example of sarcasm that is very subtle and is actually a little bit more like what you would call irony. So, for example, my son plays soccer and your son plays soccer, and we're all going out together on a Sunday to play soccer together, and it's just going to be fun. And however, I have to admit that I'm just a little bit competitive, and I notice that your son has a new pair of soccer shoes. So I say, "Oh, Taro, you're not going to wear those shoes today, are you?" And what I mean is, I'm very impressed with those shoes. Those shoes are beautiful. But I'm saying, I'm making a recommendation that you not wear those shoes because I don't want you to have a competitive advantage over my son. That's not actually true. I don't care if you have a competitive advantage. I'm admitting to my sensitivity about wanting my son to play well and have a good time. Any parent will have that slight desire. But I know that's silly, and I'm using sarcasm or irony to communicate that awkwardness and basically to communicate that it's not that big a deal. But that's a good example of a kind of an ironic or sarcastic joke that an American might make that a Japanese person might not pick up on. So I would say to Taro, "Taro, you're not going to wear those shoes today, are you?" And Taro would say, "Yes, I am." Right? So that's one example of how you might get a gap in communicating with a foreigner. It's because sarcasm and irony is such a big part of American culture. Anyway, I hope this was useful. There's a podcast about this, podcasts about many other things as part of our podcast series, Learn with Peter, our Learn with Peter podcast series. And you can find out more about that series, and you can look at supplementary materials if you go to mydesk.learnwithpeter.com. Anyway, we look forward to seeing you there.